Listen carefully, fellow beings of the Galactic Council, because what I'm about to tell you will make your tentacles curl and your plasma sacs burst with disbelief. My name is Vorthak 9, Senior Intelligence Officer of the Zentorian Empire, and I've spent the last 50 cycles analyzing the most terrifying species this galaxy has ever produced. No, not the flesh-eating Morvac swarms, not the reality-bending psionic collective. I'm talking about those bipedal maniacs called humans. You see, 3 years ago, we thought we had them figured out. Small, squishy creatures inhabiting a single blue marble they called Earth. Their technology? Laughably primitive. Their military? A collection of metal boxes that couldn't even achieve proper interstellar flight. We classified them as Level 2 on the Galactic Threat Assessment Scale, right between mildly annoying space fungus and occasionally problematic asteroid miners. Oh, how wrong we were. The first sign something was amiss came from our deep space reconnaissance drones. Commander Zilthrop was monitoring the outer rim systems when his sensor arrays started picking up gravitational anomalies. Massive ones. The kind that should only exist around neutron stars or black holes. But these readings were coming from empty space, sectors that should have contained nothing but cosmic dust and the occasional lost merchant vessel. Sir, Zilthrop buzzed through his communication appendages. The gravitational signatures are impossible. Something with the mass of a small moon is moving through the Kepler Nebula, but our visual scanners show nothing. I clicked my mandibles in annoyance. Probably another equipment malfunction. These new sensor arrays have been glitching since the procurement department bought them from the lowest bidder. But Zilthrop's sensors weren't malfunctioning. What they had detected was humanity's little secret, a secret so audacious, so monumentally insane, that even now, knowing the truth, I sometimes wonder if I'm experiencing a stress-induced hallucination. The humans, in their infinite capacity for overkill, had been building warships. Not just any warships, mind you. Planet-sized warships. While the rest of the galaxy was focused on optimizing fuel efficiency and reducing construction costs, these maniacs were hollowing out asteroids, redirecting comets, and somehow convincing entire moons to serve as the hulls for weapons platforms that defied every principle of practical military engineering. The revelation came during what should have been a routine patrol. Captain Creeks Delta was leading a standard enforcement fleet through the Tau Cygni system, investigating reports of unauthorized mining operations. Humans had been granted limited mining rights in the sector, but their operations seemed unusually quiet. Too quiet. Where are all their ships? Lieutenant Bexar questioned, his vocal sacs quivering with confusion. The mining permits indicate they should have hundreds of vessels operating in this system. Creeks Delta was about to respond when every sensor on his command bridge simultaneously exploded with warnings, proximity alarms, gravitational distress signals, and radiation detectors all screaming in perfect, terrifying harmony. Sir. Bexar's voice cracked with panic. Something just appeared. Directly above us. It's enormous. What had appeared was not a ship in any conventional sense. It was a weapon. A planetary weapon. The humans had taken what appeared to be a small moon, gutted its interior, and transformed it into a mobile fortress bristling with enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems. The surface was covered in gun emplacements that looked like surface features from a distance, mountain ranges that were actually missile silos, valleys that housed energy cannons capable of splitting planets in half, ancient Zentorian vessels. Came a voice so calm and conversational it made my blood freeze when I heard the recording later. This is Admiral Jessica Morrison aboard the ISF Lunar Hammer. Beautiful day for a patrol, isn't it? We couldn't help but notice you seem a bit confused about our operations in this sector. Creeks Delta, to his credit, managed to maintain some semblance of diplomatic protocol despite having what amounted to a weaponized celestial body hanging over his head like a particularly dangerous chandelier. Human vessel. You are operating outside the parameters of your granted mining permissions. Please explain your presence and the nature of your ship. That's when Creeks Delta made his fatal mistake. He activated his weapons systems. Now, understand, Creeks Delta was no fool. He commanded one of the most advanced battle cruisers in the Centaurian fleet. His ship, the Righteous Fury, was equipped with plasma cannons that could melt through the hull of any known vessel, shield generators that could withstand direct hits from asteroid impacts, and defensive systems that had never failed in over 200 combat engagements. None of that mattered. The moment his weapons came online, every gun on the lunar hammer turned toward his position. Not just the obvious ones, the massive cannon installations that looked like industrial complexes. I'm talking about defensive systems hidden in what looked like natural rock formations, automated turrets disguised as crater rims, and missile pods that had been masquerading as geological features. Captain. Admiral Morrison's voice maintained that same terrifyingly casual tone. I'm going to strongly suggest you power down those weapons. Not because I'm worried about my ship, you understand. It's just that my crew spent 3 months installing a new entertainment system in Sector 7. And if you start shooting, I'm going to have to shoot back. And when I shoot back, the resulting explosion is going to be visible from 12 systems away. Kriex Delta, showing wisdom that saved his life and the lives of his crew, immediately powered down his weapons. Smart choice, Morrison continued. Now, since you're here, would you like a tour? I'm quite proud of what we've done with the place. The recreation deck in the former magma chamber is particularly nice. We've got bowling, zero-gravity tennis, and a food court that serves cuisine from 47 different worlds. That tour changed everything. Not just for Kriex Delta, but for our entire understanding of human military philosophy. Because the lunar hammer wasn't unique, it wasn't even their flagship. As they traveled through the interior of the weaponized moon, Kriex Delta's crew documented corridor after corridor of living spaces, manufacturing facilities, hydroponic gardens, and recreational areas. This wasn't just a warship. It was a self-contained city, a mobile civilization capable of sustaining itself indefinitely while simultaneously possessing enough destructive capability to end worlds. How many people live here? Lieutenant Bexar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Current population is about 2.3 million. Admiral Morrison replied cheerfully. We've got room for 5 million if we need to expand. The housing market on Earth got a bit crazy, so we decided to create our own real estate opportunities. Turns out, if you're willing to live inside a giant gun, rent is surprisingly affordable. The tour continued through manufacturing bays where smaller ships were being constructed, research laboratories developing new weapons technologies, and command centers coordinating activities across multiple star systems. Each revelation was more terrifying than the last. This is just one ship. Kriex Delta managed to ask. Morrison's grin was visible even through her environmental suit. Oh, goodness no. We've got 17 of these operational, with another 30 under construction. The Zeus-class planets are even bigger, though I suppose calling them planets is a bit of a misnomer since we built those from scratch. 17 operational planet ships, 30 more under construction. Zeus-class planets built from scratch. Let me repeat that for those of you who might have missed it the first time. The humans built planets. Artificial planets, for the express purpose of turning them into weapons. When Kriex Delta asked to see the weapons systems, Morrison was happy to oblige. What he found defied every principle of military engineering known to galactic civilization. The primary armament was a weapon called the Planet Cracker, which was exactly what it sounded like. A focused beam weapon capable of literally splitting worlds in half. We tested it on an uninhabited planet in the Ross system, Morrison explained casually. One shot, clean split right down the middle. The geological surveys afterward were fascinating. Did you know that most planets have surprisingly attractive interiors? Very colorful rock layers. The secondary armaments were equally horrifying, missile systems that could launch thousands of planet-killer warheads simultaneously. Energy weapons that could sterilize the surface of inhabited worlds while leaving the infrastructure intact. And something called the pacifier, which Morrison described as a non-lethal crowd control system for unruly solar systems. But perhaps the most terrifying revelation came when Kriex Delta asked about their defensive capabilities. "Oh, we don't really do defense," Morrison said with a shrug. "Our philosophy is more preventative. If someone threatens us, we eliminate the threat before it becomes a problem. It's much more efficient than building shields and armor. Plus, the psychological impact of watching your home planet get cracked in half tends to discourage future aggressive behavior." The humans had weaponized deterrence itself. They had made war so terrible that the mere existence of their fleet served as a guarantee of peace through overwhelming terror. As the tour concluded, Morrison offered Kriex Delta and his crew refreshments in the ship's main cafeteria. Yes, this instrument of mass destruction had a cafeteria, with surprisingly good food, according to the reports. "So," Morrison said over coffee that was apparently grown in the ship's agricultural sections, "what brings the Zentorian Empire to our little corner of the galaxy? Just routine patrol? Or were you folks planning something more interesting?" The directness of the question caught Kriex Delta off guard. In galactic diplomacy, such matters were usually approached with layers of subtlety and carefully coded language. Humans, apparently, preferred the direct approach. "Routine patrol," Kriex Delta assured her. "Though I must ask, why haven't you reported these vessels to the Galactic Registry? Ships of this size and capability should be registered with the Council." Morrison's laugh was like the sound of someone enjoying a private joke at the universe's expense. "Oh, we tried that. Filled out all the paperwork, submitted the technical specifications, paid the registration fees. But apparently, then, your bureaucracy wasn't designed to handle planet-sized warships. The forms kept getting rejected because we exceeded the maximum tonnage limits by several orders of magnitude." She leaned back in her chair, still smiling that terrifying human smile. "So we decided to handle our own security arrangements, much more efficient. Plus, we don't have to deal with those awful bureaucratic delays when we need to make modifications." The implications of her words sent chills through every sensory organ in Kriex Delta's body. The humans hadn't just built these monstrosities, they were continuing to improve them, grading them, making them more efficient at their primary function of rendering entire civilizations extinct. "I hope you understand," Morrison continued, "that we harbor no ill will toward the Zentorian Empire or any other galactic civilization. We're quite peaceful, actually. We just believe in being prepared for any eventuality." Her definition of prepared involved the ability to end all life in the galaxy. As Kriex Delta's fleet prepared to depart, Morrison made one final comment that has haunted my dreams ever since I read the mission reports. "Oh, Captain, before you go, I should mention that we're planning a little demonstration next month. Nothing dramatic. Just a small military exercise. We'll be testing some new weapon systems we've been developing. I'd recommend avoiding the Proxima sector for the next few weeks. Things might get a bit noisy." Kriex Delta thanked her for the warning and departed as quickly as his engines would allow. 3 weeks later, the Proxima sector briefly became the brightest object in the local galactic arm. The humans had detonated a star, not destroyed a planet orbiting a star. They had made the star itself explode. For target practice. The energy signature was visible from halfway across the galaxy. Every civilization with the ability to detect stellar phenomena immediately began emergency sessions to discuss this unprecedented display of destructive capability. And Admiral Morrison's only comment, broadcast on open channels throughout the galaxy, was, "Oops. Sorry about that, everyone. We're still calibrating the new equipment." The calculations were off by about 3 decimal places. "We'll try to keep it quieter next time. Quieter next time." They promised to keep their stellar engineering projects quieter. That, fellow beings of the Council, is when I knew we were dealing with something beyond our comprehension. It's a species that casually detonated stars as part of their weapon testing program. It's a civilization that treated the fundamental forces of the universe as construction materials for increasingly elaborate instruments of warfare. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no, it gets so much worse, because what we discovered about the lunar hammer and its sister ships was just the beginning. The humans had been busy. very busy, and their definition of home improvement extended far beyond weaponizing celestial bodies. They had been preparing for something big. And when I learned what they were preparing for, I realized that every species in the galaxy had fundamentally misunderstood the nature of the threat we were facing. The humans weren't building these weapons to conquer the galaxy, they were building them to save it. But that revelation, and the horrifying truth about what they were protecting us from, is a story for another time. The truth about humanity's real purpose came to light 6 months after the Proxima Sector incident, and I wish I could say I was prepared for it. But nobody could have been prepared for what we learned during the emergency session of the Galactic Council's Science Division. Dr. Kelex Prime, our most respected astrophysicist, had been monitoring unusual quantum fluctuations at the edge of our galaxy for the past decade. What he thought were natural phenomena turned out to be something far more sinister. Something that made humanity's planet-cracking weapons look like toys by comparison. Colleagues, Dr. Kelex Prime announced, his voice trembling with fear, we have detected massive tears in the fabric of space-time itself. These rifts are growing larger every day, and preliminary calculations suggest they will reach critical mass within the next 50 standard cycles. The assembled scientists exchanged worried glances. Tears in space-time meant only one thing: interdimensional incursion. Something from outside our reality was trying to break through. But that's not the worst part, Kelex Prime continued. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected movement beyond the rifts, massive movement. We believe an entire fleet of extra-dimensional entities is preparing to invade our galaxy. That's when Commander Thex 7 from our intelligence division dropped the bombshell that changed everything. Sir, we've been monitoring human communications for months, trying to understand their weapon development program. We always assumed they were planning aggressive expansion. But after reviewing thousands of hours of intercepted transmissions, we've made a disturbing realization. Thex 7 activated the holographic display, showing intercepted human military communications dating back 5 years. They know about the interdimensional threat. They've known about it longer than we have. Every single one of their planet-sized warships has been designed specifically to combat extra-dimensional entities. The silence in the chamber was deafening. We had been so focused on the immediate threat of human military capability that we completely missed the bigger picture. They weren't preparing to conquer us. They were preparing to defend us. The intercepted communications painted a picture of a species that had stumbled upon evidence of the interdimensional threat through their crude but determined exploration of quantum mechanics. Unlike our own scientists, who preferred theoretical discussions and peer review processes that took decades to complete, the humans had immediately begun preparing for war. Admiral Morrison to Fleet Command, one intercepted transmission began. The Void Seekers are definitely planning something big. Our quantum sensors are picking up massive energy buildups in dimensions 7 through 12. Recommend accelerating construction schedules on the Zeus-class platforms. Void Seekers. That's what the humans called the extra-dimensional entities. And from their communications, it was clear they had been engaged in some form of limited conflict with these beings for years. The most chilling transmission was from a human scientist named Dr. Elena Vasquez, broadcasting from deep space near the galactic rim. This is Research Station Omega-7 to all human military assets. We've confirmed the worst-case scenario. The entities aren't just planning an invasion. They're planning complete dimensional annexation, if they succeed. Our entire universe will be absorbed into their reality matrix. Every living being in this galaxy will cease to exist. Complete dimensional annexation. The total destruction of our reality itself. That's when I understood the true scope of human military preparation. They weren't just building weapons to fight in space. They were building weapons to fight for the very existence of space itself. The next series of intercepted communications revealed the full extent of human preparations. Admiral Morrison was coordinating with something called the Terran Defense Initiative, a secret military organization that had been operating for over a decade. Morrison to Base Command. The Galactic Council species are still completely unaware of the threat. Our xenobiology teams estimate that most of them lack the dimensional perception necessary to even detect Void Seeker incursions until it's too late. Copy that, Admiral. Maintain operational security. If the other species panic before we're ready, it could compromise our defensive positioning. How's the fleet status? 17 planet ships operational, 37 under construction. The new Jupiter-class vessels are ahead of schedule. Each one can maintain a dimensional barrier across roughly 12 light-years of space. If we can get enough of them positioned along the galactic perimeter, we might be able to hold the line. Dimensional barriers. The humans had developed technology to literally reinforce the fabric of reality itself. But the most shocking revelation came from a conversation between Admiral Morrison and someone identified only as Supreme Commander Hayes. "Admiral, we've received confirmation from the Deep Space Monitoring Array. Muthole. The first major incursion is scheduled to begin in approximately 48 standard cycles. The Void Seekers are massing their primary assault fleet in Dimension 9. Understood, Commander. What's our projected casualty estimate if we can't establish a stable defense perimeter? Complete galactic extinction within 72 hours of initial contact. The entities consume dimensional energy to fuel their expansion. Once they establish a foothold in our reality, they'll begin converting matter into pure dimensional force. Planets, stars, the entire solar systems will simply cease to exist. 72 hours. That's how long our entire galaxy would survive once the invasion began. Morrison's response was typically human in its mixture of determination and dark humor. Well, that's certainly motivating. I suppose we'd better not screw this up. The final piece of the puzzle came from a transmission that made my respiratory organs seize with terror. Dr. Elena Vasquez had made direct contact with the Void Seekers. "This is Dr. Vasquez reporting from the Dimensional Interface Zone. I've successfully established communication with what appears to be a Void Seeker command entity. The translation matrix is crude, but I'm getting basic conceptual information." Her voice was steady, but I could hear the fear underneath. "The entity refers to our galaxy as Reality Cluster 77 Alpha. According to their communications, they've already absorbed over 4,000 similar reality clusters. Each absorption increases their dimensional mass and allows them to target larger, more complex universes." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Commander, they're not just planning to destroy us. They're farming us. Our entire universe is nothing more than a crop to be harvested when it reaches optimal dimensional density." That transmission was followed by emergency alerts as Dr. Vasquez's research station came under attack. The audio was filled with sounds that defied description, noises that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "All stations, this is Vasquez. The entity has begun a preliminary incursion. It's indescribable. The station is being pulled into dimensional flux. Recommend immediate evacuation of the entire sector." Then silence. Then silence. 3 days later, the entire Omega sector simply vanished, not destroyed, not exploded. It just stopped existing, the space where it had been remained, but empty, as if the matter had never been there at all. That's when the human fleet went to full alert status. Admiral Morrison's next transmission was broadcast on all frequencies, in multiple languages, to every species in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Jessica Morrison of the United Human Space Forces, broadcasting to all sentient species within Galactic Cluster 77 Alpha. We know this message comes as a shock, but we need you to listen carefully because all of your lives depend on what happens in the next few weeks. For the past decade, humanity has been preparing for an invasion from outside our dimensional reality. These entities, which we call Void Seekers, have been systematically destroying entire universes. Our galaxy is their next target. We've built a defensive fleet specifically designed to combat this threat. In approximately 45 days, they will begin their primary assault. When that happens, every military vessel, every defensive installation, and every weapon system in the galaxy will be useless except for the dimensional warfare platforms we've constructed. We're not asking for your permission, your cooperation, or your approval. We're simply informing you that we will be positioning our defensive fleet along the galactic perimeter. When the attack begins, stay out of our way. We've got this." The reaction across the galaxy was immediate and predictable. Half the species accused humanity of fabricating the threat as justification for military expansion. The other half demanded immediate access to human dimensional warfare technology. Admiral Morrison's response to both groups was delivered with that same terrifying casualness that made humans so unpredictable. To those who think we're lying, check your deep space quantum sensors in the next 24 hours. The dimensional rifts are visible to any civilization with basic physics equipment. To those demanding our technology, you can't handle it. We've been working on this for a decade and we barely understand it ourselves. Plus, the construction time for a single planet ship is about 8 years. We don't have 8 years. She was right about the quantum sensors. Every species that checked their deep space monitoring equipment immediately detected the expanding dimensional rifts. The evidence was undeniable. But the humans weren't finished with their revelations. General Marcus Webb, apparently Morrison's superior, made an announcement that sent shockwaves through every government in the galaxy. Citizens of the galaxy, this is General Webb of the Terran Defense Initiative. In addition to our mobile fleet, we've been constructing fixed defensive installations throughout the galaxy. With the permission of absolutely nobody. We've been building dimensional anchor stations in orbit around major population centers. Dimensional anchor stations. They had been secretly constructing defensive installations around our worlds without telling us. These stations will create localized reality reinforcement fields, Webb continued. If our mobile fleet fails to stop the primary incursion, these anchors will protect inhabited systems for approximately 72 additional hours. We realize this may seem presumptuous, but we figured it was better to ask for forgiveness than permission when the alternative was universal extinction. The humans had been secretly protecting us for years, but their final revelation was the most shocking of all. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who we thought had been killed in the Omega Sector incident, appeared in a transmission that defied every law of physics we understood. This is Dr. Vasquez, transmitting from inside the dimensional interface zone. I'm alive, though I'm not entirely sure what that means anymore. I've been existing partially in Void Seeker reality for the past several weeks, and I've learned something crucial about their invasion strategy. Their image flickered between normal appearance and something that hurt to look at directly. The Void Seekers aren't just planning a single invasion, they're planning a cascade collapse. They intend to weaken our dimensional barriers at multiple points simultaneously, creating a chain reaction that will make our entire reality cluster unstable. Once that happens, they can absorb everything at once instead of having to process it piece by piece. But here's the important part. I've found their command structure. There's a central entity coordinating the entire operation from a fixed position in Dimension 11. If we can target that entity directly, we can disrupt their entire invasion force. The problem is reaching it. The entity exists in a reality where our normal weapons can't function, but the humans have been developing something called Project Godkiller, a weapon specifically designed to eliminate extra-dimensional command entities. Project Godkiller. The humans had built a weapon to kill gods. General Webb's final transmission revealed the true scope of human military preparation, all human military assets. This is Webb. Activate Protocol 7. Begin final positioning for Operation Reality Check. All Zeus-class vessels proceed to dimensional barrier stations. All Jupiter-class vessels prepare for deep dimensional penetration. Project Godkiller is authorized for immediate deployment to all galactic species monitoring this frequency. In approximately 6 hours, we will begin the largest military operation in the history of this universe. We recommend you find somewhere safe to wait this out, preferably underground. And if you're the praying type, now would be a good time. That was 3 days ago. Currently, the human fleet is engaged in combat with entities that exist partially outside our reality. Their planet-sized warships are maintaining dimensional barriers that prevent complete universal collapse while simultaneously launching attacks into parallel dimensions. The battles are visible from anywhere in the galaxy as massive explosions of light that seem to exist in multiple spectrums simultaneously. Stars are being born and dying in seconds as reality itself reshapes around the conflict zones. And the humans are winning. Admiral Morrison's latest transmission, broadcast just 6 hours ago, was typically understated. This is Morrison to all galactic monitoring stations. Operation Reality Check is proceeding ahead of schedule. We've eliminated approximately 60% of the Void Seeker invasion force and established stable dimensional barriers around all major population centers. Project Godkiller successfully engaged the primary command entity approximately 2 hours ago. Reality should be returning to normal shortly. Kipperman. Like LAV, minor side effects may include temporary gravitational fluctuations, brief interruptions in the flow of time, and occasional sightings of parallel universe versions of yourself. These effects are normal and should subside within a few days. Oh, and we'll be sending out repair crews to fix the stars we accidentally broke during the fighting. Sorry about that, they broke stars. Accidentally, during their war to save the universe. As I compiled this report, the dimensional rifts are closing, the Void Seekers are retreating to whatever realm spawned them, and humanity's planet-sized warships are returning to their patrol routes as if interdimensional warfare was just another routine military exercise. The humans saved us all. Every living being in the galaxy owes their continued existence to a species we once classified as mildly annoying. But perhaps the most disturbing realization is that this probably isn't over. Admiral Morrison's final words in her last transmission were characteristically ominous. All stations, maintain alert status 2. Intelligence suggests the Void Seekers were just the advanced scouts for something much larger. Recommend continuing construction on the Titan-class defensive platforms. Something tells me we're going to need them. Something larger than entities that could consume entire universes. The humans are already preparing for the next threat, whatever that might be. And frankly, after everything I've witnessed, I'm grateful they are. Because if there's one thing I've learned about humanity, it's that their capacity for overkill is matched only by their determination to protect those they consider allies. Even when those allies never asked for protection. Even when those allies didn't deserve it. Even when those allies were too stupid to realize they needed it, the galaxy is safe. For now, thanks to a species that builds planet-sized warships for fun and considers detonating stars to be minor calibration errors. I'm not sure whether that should make us feel safer or more terrified. Probably both. This concludes my report on humanity's secret military capabilities and their recent actions to prevent universal extinction. I recommend immediate diplomatic initiatives to establish formal alliance agreements with the Terran Defense Initiative. Because if we're very lucky, they might let us help the next time the universe needs saving, and there will be a next time. There's always a next time when humans are involved.